All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Thinks I'll Read It From Here. You watched us yesterday, a couple hours ago, and we decided, you know what? We're just going to come back today because we need to talk about off campus.
Yes.
I don't know if you've seen, Victoria, all of the stuff that's been coming out of Obsessed Fest that Amazon hosted in LA with all of their upcoming projects. I think they're all romance based. I would say from what I've seen.
Yeah,
Would you say
I
that's
think
accurate?
so. I think so.
Yeah, so I've seen all the stuff coming out about that. There's been some stuff that came out about Off Campus Season 2. And so this video kind of feels really timely for us to talk about what we could see in Season 2 based on the books. So between me and Victoria, we have read all of the Off Campus and Briar U universe, I guess, of books. So we can really pull from the source material to make some theories and predictions. So I feel like I've been talking a lot. I'm gonna start with I want you to talk a little bit about the books that you've read, Victoria.
Yeah, so I have, of course, read all of Off Campus. I have not yet ventured into Briar U, which is the next part of the series. So full transparency, y'all, I didn't know when I started my Elle Kennedy journey, I didn't know that the Campus Diaries was the third iteration of the Briar U universe. So I actually read those three first. Now, if you are unfamiliar, Campus Diaries is the children of the characters that we know and love in the Off Campus series. So I read those and then went back to read Off Campus, and then my next grouping will be Briar U.
So just to be clear, you read about the kids of the characters in Off Campus. So she read about like Garrett and Hannah's child, Dean and Allie's kid. Who else?
So there's like a little combination of them, but the main character is Gigi Graham, which is their daughter, Hannah and Garrett's daughter. And then you also get to know Wyatt, who is their son, a little bit through that. And all of the characters are kind of there, but I didn't know who they were at the time. So I don't truly remember that much of how many of the characters from Off Campus were part of it because they were all new to me. And so going back, I understand things a little bit more now, but it definitely put the whole series in a new perspective once I read Off Campus.
So for that series, is it like each book is a different kind of couple in the same way that the other books are?
Exactly. So in the first book, which is The Graham Effect, you are following Gigi Graham, which is their daughter. She is a female hockey player, and she has a relationship. Yes, it's so good. And you are following her relationship with one of the male hockey players. The next book is actually focused on a cheerleader and one of the other hockey players. And then the third and final book in that series gets a little spicy and follows two of the male hockey players and their one female companion.
Hold up.
It's a spicy one.
Me, hold on. In the Off Campus universe, there is a polyamorous book?
There is, and it is so good. It is incredible. What? It's the Charlie Method. Yeah, so it is book 3 in in Campus Diaries. Book 3 in Campus Diaries, and you kind of expect it leading in because of the way that you get to know the two male characters from the rest of the book. So like, you know what they like, you know what they're into. And then you meet the female lead in the third book and it's like, how's this going to go? And it's just done in such a way that, number one, makes it so much more socially acceptable to talk about relationships that are outside of the social norms. But also it's just a really beautiful love story between 3 people. And it's really, really great the way that they do it.
Wow, I think you just dropped some lore that I was not expecting. I'm still receiving that information. But I've read, all of the off-campus books. Actually, I realized today I did not read the one that is like what is it, Legacy or something?
The
That's
Legacy, the one that's 5 years in advance,
yeah,
5
that
years
one I did
later.
not read.
So you didn't even, oh my God. I just had a whole realization. You're missing so much tea. So the Legacy is all 4 of the couples in mini stories about their lives 5 years later. So that's where we're finding out. And like this is obviously a little bit of a spoiler, right? But from the back of the book, if you read that, you're going to know that there's a wedding, there is a honeymoon, there is a surprise pregnancy, there is an engagement.
Wait, like another one? Because there was already one in the second.
Correct. So there are like all of these pieces that you know about going in if you read the back of the book, and then you're trying to decipher which couple is going to be which. Now, you can make some assumptions based on what's happening, but it's really, really good. And of course, Elle Kennedy is great at intertwining all of these characters together. So there's like one funny storyline across all 4 of the mini stories that really like shows how connected they still are. And it's so stupid, but it's so funny. Like, it's just one of those things that like randomly will pop up and you're like, ugh, Dean, I can't believe he did this. And it's just one of those things that's like really just embedded into the fabric of the book.
Gotcha. Some more tea you're dropping today. Yeah, so I read, minus that book, I read all of the other off-campus books, and then I read the Briar U series, which is kind of different from off-campus, but still in the same kind of realm of, you know, there's hockey players, and the hockey players have, you know, daddy issues, or mommy and daddy issues, and you know, they meet this girl who they can't stop obsessing over. But the first book starts with Dean's little sister.
And then I love Summer.
Summer De Laurentis, which icon. Like, if you love Blair Waldorf, if you love Elle from Legally Blonde, is it Elle from Legally Blonde? You are going to love Summer. Like, she is such a girl's girl. She's such a fashion icon. Like, I cannot wait to see her on screen. And I actually think that leads into the next thing I kind of wanted to talk about. And I think, and one of my first theories, right, for season 2, I think we are going to see Summer in season 2 of Off Campus.
I agree completely.
And the reason why I think that is because Summer's first appearance is not in her book, right? In the Briar U series, her first appearance is actually in Dean and Allie's book. Do you remember that?
Of course I do. That's why I know Summer, because I wouldn't know her any other way. And I think that the way that she is written in the books is just amazing. I think her and Dean's relationship is a phenomenal one. And like, she really is the annoying little sister that you have no choice but to love. And it's just written so well. So I am so excited. That's one of the things that I'm really excited about when I read Briar U is getting to know Summer's character more, especially because I know who her love interest is because I read the back of the book. And so I'm really excited to see how all of that plays out in Briar U. And I'm curious if they're going to bring any of that into the off-campus series.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I do believe that my suspicion is that Briar U is going to also be part of future seasons. I think they are fully planning on including those, especially since they've already included Hunter. Now, Hunter has shown up in some of the other off-campus books, obviously, but Hunter Davenport also has his own book in the Briar U series, right? And not only that, and this is going to be a huge spoiler warning that I'm giving you because I'm about to drop some tea, but Hunter Davenport is actually in like a love triangle with Dean's little sister Summer.
Which, okay, I have to ask you a question, right? So like, you've read Briar U. I have not. Yes. And I'm asking this as someone who genuinely has no idea, but only knows his character in Off Campus, the books and the show. How much of his storyline is going to have to change with the changes that they made in the TV show? Because he is a different character in the TV show than he is in the books. So I'm curious, because I didn't read his book, like how much of his storyline can even remain the same from the books?
So I've been thinking about this a lot. I think they're going to have to change his character significantly. And one of the interesting things that I haven't really seen a lot of people talk about is the fact that Hunter Davenport actually, and this is in the book, and I think they might have mentioned it like loosely in the show, but Hunter went to the same high school as Summer. And that it's like very briefly mentioned in the books. And I think they're going to explore more of how they knew each other in high school. Excuse me. Excuse me. Oh my God. There's a ghost that I feel like is in my house. And I feel like it just choked me out. But we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on. The ghost is not a fan of Hunter, but we're gonna move
clearly.
on. So, yeah, they knew each other in high school. It's briefly talked about in the books. I think they're going to be exploring that a little bit more and how they knew each other in high school. And I think they're going to really show how Dean and Summer's relationship in high school, and whether it was platonic, whether it was not platonic. I think they're going to explore what that was like in high school, and that's going to be the reason why Hunter and Dean have tension, and that's something we didn't see in the book at all. And I think that's how they're going to make that tension make sense, and I think that's what they're going to change. But overall, Hunter's storyline is about, he has mommy and daddy issues, and he is crushed by Summer choosing his friend over him, and it causes him to spiral. And then he kind of he goes to rock bottom, and then in his book he's pulling himself back up and rebuilding his life. And I think they're going to stay true to the concept of him going through something hard, spiraling, and then building himself back up from rock bottom. And I think that's what we're going to see. And it's not going to be exactly like what happened in the book, but I think it's going to hit those big points, if that makes sense.
I'm seeing, so based on everything that you said, I just see a lot of similarities in what we can anticipate happening with Dean and what you're anticipating happening with Hunter, and that they both have to hit rock bottom in order to get themselves out. And if you have not read the Off-Campus series, you have no idea what is to come in season 2. And I'm just bring some tissues. That's all I will say. That's not lore that I want to drop right now, but I think we just be prepared with some tissues to see.
I'm going to drop it.
Rock bottom. I'm too heartbroken.
I'm going to drop it because there is a rumor that has been circulating that we need to talk about, because I am emotionally not prepared. So for those who don't know, and this is a huge spoiler. So if you do not want to know, this is like a very big spoiler.
But only if you haven't read the books. Only if you haven't read the books.
If you've read the books, this is fine. If you haven't read the books and you don't want any spoilers, this is a really, really big one. But in the books, Beau Maxwell does pass away from a car accident that he is in with his father. His father does survive, but he unfortunately does not survive. He kind of died on impact. So it's really sad, and it kind of causes Dean to really spiral, because that's his best friend, and he starts abusing substances, and he really hits rock bottom, and Allie breaks up with him, and it's heartbreaking and sad. Now, the rumor that's been circulating,
I can't handle it,
is that Dean will be the one driving.
Why do we do this to Dean? Poor Dean, okay? He is fragile. He is a fragile little baby and can't handle this. Why on earth? I really hope that this is not true. Like, I really need this to not be true.
I need this to not be true.
I can't handle it. I think what would work is maybe they're in the car together, but Beau is the one who is driving. That I could see that working really, really well, because then it's Dean not only losing his best friend and trying to work through that, but also grieving like the accident itself and moving on beyond that and trying to figure out, because like a really bad car accident where you lose someone can cause PTSD. And so I could see that working out really, really well to give him even more like depth into why he's acting out the way that he is. But if they make him the driver, all bets are off. I'm pitchforks raised. I will be so upset.
Can we
So
talk
sad.
about like how that's even going to look on screen in terms of just that storyline? Because I think we can guarantee Beau Maxwell is not making it to season 3, right? Like, I think
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously nothing's guaranteed, but I think it is more likely than not that we're going to get to see that.
Yeah, because in order for Dean and Allie's storyline to flourish, he has to lose Beau. That's the only way that Dean is going to be able to grow through what he has gone through. And so I think that it's inevitable that Beau is going to die. I'm hoping. I love Beau. I love Beau so much, and seeing him come to life on the screen, I loved him even more. However, I can't foresee Dean and Allie making it through everything if Beau is still alive, because how does Dean learn and grow from that? So I do
Yeah,
think that
I
it's
agree.
coming.
I feel like would you say Dean and Allie's breakup was like a third act breakup?
I mean, technically, they're all third act breakups because it's towards the end, but I feel like theirs didn't feel as third act breakup because neither one of them actually wanted to end the relationship. And so it was really just, you need to get yourself together, and I'm going to walk away to allow you to do that, versus like Garrett and Hannah had an actual breakup where they were done with each other, right? They weren't trying to win each other back. I think
Well,
Dean and I mean, they were, but like
I was
in a
like,
different
Dean was
way.
trying to win her back. I feel
Yeah.
like Allie was just kind of like so focused on, what she wanted to do with her
Hmm.
career. And I don't know if you remember, like her dad was having some health issues as well. So I feel
Hmm.
like she was more so focused on that than getting back together with Dean. I think she just really wanted to be able to make decisions, like big decisions about her life without
Hmm.
having to have a man have a say in it. And I
Yeah.
love that kind of storyline in her book. And I think it really made a lot of sense for Dean and Allie to be broken up when they did, because I think it really forced both of them to have to grow as individuals to
Exactly.
be able to come back together, um and be the best versions of themselves.
Yeah.
It's sad that they couldn't do it together, but I think that that's life, right? Like,
Hmm.
that can happen.
Yeah. No, sometimes you have to be able to be alone in order to work through the things that you're dealing with. And I think that that's one of the things that Elle does really, really well in her writing, saying Elle like she's my bestie. Elle Kennedy, excuse me. She does that really well, is that she builds out worlds in which you can see yourself in those shoes and you can feel what they're going through and you understand why these things are needed. I feel like I love Dean and Allie. They're my favorite out of all of the couples. They are my favorite. Even out of the second series that I read, like they're absolutely my favorite in the Briar universe. But I think that with them, their story felt the most realistic to me
Mhm.
and the most real, like just real in terms of how they handled everything. Because yes, if you lose someone that you really care about, you're going to act out sometimes and you're going to
Yeah,
lose people from that, but you're also going to be able to crawl your way back out and find your way back to each other. So I think it was done really, really well. But I did see something online,
oh
and
gosh, what?
I'm curious. So this is just some lore that Elle Kennedy herself had dropped, and I don't know if
Okay.
anyone else knows about this. So feel free, if you're, if this is the first time, feel free to share your thoughts in the chat too. But apparently, when Elle Kennedy was writing Dean's story, she originally paired him with Sabrina, which, for those of you who have not read the books yet, that is Tucker's lady. And there's
Oh,
a
I think I may have
lot.
seen something about this.
She talked about it in an interview, and she said it just didn't feel real or authentic, which is why she went back to the drawing board and redid Dean's
Okay.
story to include Allie. But when I heard
Now,
that, I was like, yo, what?
my thing is, would with it being Sabrina, now does that mean it was Dean was going to have a surprise pregnancy storyline.
I don't know. She didn't really share much else, but I
Because that would
feel
have been
like
crazy.
I feel like if it was Dean and Sabrina, it would have been more of like the enemies to lovers. And I don't think that there would have been the pregnancy trope. Because realistically, when we think about how much they hate each other, I think we would have felt that hatred as it slowly turned into sexual tension. But I'm so glad that she changed it because I'm not a fan of Sabrina. I don't love an enemies to lovers. It's my least favorite trope. Sorry, don't come for me for that. But I think thank God she changed it because I think Dean and Allie is so much stronger than Sabrina and Dean would have been.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. I do think overall, from what I've seen from the fandom, is a lot of people are not the biggest fans of Sabrina. And I hope that when they adapt that book on screen, that there are some changes with her character a little bit to make her a little more lovable. Not that she's horrible, but my observation is she's not someone the fandom really is fans of.
And I think the reason for that is because of Dean's book, right? Because that's when we meet her and get to know her is through Dean's book, through their hatred of each other. And so that's the first like mention that we get is of this like bad relationship. And then that goes into Tucker's book. I'm very curious to see if we are going to be introduced to her this season because of their relationship and their dynamic. I think it would make the most sense, but it hasn't been shared yet. And like, we have not heard any casting rumors or anything for Sabrina, but it would make sense for her to be introduced this season as a secondary character. Because if you remember from the books, Tucker just started going missing randomly once they started talking about Sabrina. And so I'm curious how that's going to play into things as we get into season 2, because we did flip flop, right? So what was happening in Dean's book led into Tucker's book, but now we're getting Dean's story next season, and we still have Logan's story to be told in season 3. So where are Tucker and Sabrina going to play into all of this is my question.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify for people who haven't read the books, but Dean and Allie's book comes third in the series, not second. It's actually Logan and Grace's book that is second in the series. So they've kind of flipped that, which, you know, is not crazy. Bridgerton did the same thing. But, you know, I've been thinking a lot about what characters that we could see in season 2. And as I said, I think Dean's little sister, I think we're very likely to see her. And then I think we could possibly also see, not possibly, I think we're also definitely getting Grace. As we know, she's already been casted. My prediction is that the same way Dean and Allie had their own episode, I think we're going to see Logan and Grace have their own episode. And I think that's going to look like, you know, them meeting for the first time and, you know, seeing each other hooking up and then kind of having their fallout in the same way that Dean and Allie had their fallout in season 1. I think we're going to have that dynamic switch to Logan and Grace. And basically Dean and Allie will be the Hannah and Garrett, you know, moving forward.
I agree completely, especially because Grace was already cast and is with them filming. And so, which I'm super excited about because I think that they did a really great casting job for Grace. But I think that I think we're absolutely going to get like hints of their story throughout similar. And I do think that because if you haven't read the books, again, another spoiler, this is just going to be a lot of spoilers, but if you haven't read the books, Grace and Logan accidentally meet, literally like jump in bed with each other almost immediately, and then they have this huge falling out that actually spans over the course of a summer into the next semester. Now that can't really happen with the way that the TV show is taking place, so I'm curious if it's going to be like over Christmas break or something, like, because there's going to be some weird time jumps that we're going to have to go back and see. And given where we're at with the Thanksgiving storyline, I feel like that episode is going to be, they meet, they fall into bed with each other, they have their like breakup moment, they come back from Christmas break, and that's when Grace is going to go to Paris to visit her mom, if that's even still going to be the storyline, right? And then season 3 is going to be what happens in spring semester with them.
So I'm glad you started talking about that whole storyline, because there is one person you are forgetting to mention, and that is Ramona.
I hate that.
Now,
I hate her so much.
For those who don't know, Ramona will be the character that causes everyone to crash out. And I think we are going to see her next season. And hear me out.
I really don't want to.
Hear me out.
Yeah.
I think we are going to see her next season. So she is Grace's roommate, for those who don't know.
And best friend.
Now, she's kind of Grace's biggest hater. She's just extremely jealous of Grace. It's like their dynamic is so toxic. But I think we're going to see her in season 2, because if you remember, she had the biggest crush on Dean.
Mm-hmm.
Remember? And she was basically always trying to get his attention and be around him. But Dean never really gave her even a second glance, because she was a freshman and he didn't like freshmen or whatever. But I think we're going to see her show up and be flirty around Dean, and we're going to see Allie get very upset about it.
So I agree. I definitely think that we're going to see her. Also, if we are thinking about what like a Grace and Logan episode is going to look like, she has to be there if they're following the Ramona storyline, which realistically they kind of have to follow the Ramona storyline in order for them to have tension in their relationship too, because that girl brings nothing but tension with her everywhere she goes. I hate Ramona. She's a character that is not redeemable in my mind at all. And so unless she gets the Delilah treatment that we had in Every Year After, there is no hope for that girl, okay? Because she is horrible. But she is a needed part of their story. She is a needed part of their journey. And I do think it is also very possible that Ramona was already cast in season 1 as a Puck Bunny, and we just haven't gotten to know her yet. And so I would not be surprised if a familiar face comes back and finally gets a name, because not all of the Puck Bunnies were named, but she is absolutely going to be throwing herself at a couple of the hockey players that we already know and love, if they follow what the books had already laid out for us.
I just want to explain where the hatred, animosity from Ramona comes from for people who have not read the books. So as I said, Ramona is Grace's roommate, and Grace is, Logan's endgame, basically. But so there's a point in Logan's book where him and Grace kind of have a falling out, because Logan basically finds out that Grace is a virgin, and he doesn't want to take her virginity because he realizes, I don't even know if I'm like, he's like, I think I'm still in love with like Hannah. Like, I don't want to, enter this new realm with you when I don't even know fully what my feelings are with Hannah. I think I'm in love with her. I don't want to, for you to get attached to me and for me to take your virginity, and I don't want to, and I'm not all the way there for you. And he says this to Grace, and she gets so upset and she kicks him out. And that's kind of where their falling out comes from. Now, here's where it gets messy, right?
So messy.
So, Grace is spiraling, right? In her bed rotting, doing all of that, which again, I think we're going to see in season 2. And her roommate Ramona comes in and is like, seeing that she's upset, and she learns that it's because her and Logan had this falling out. And what does she do? She messages Logan. She sends him a text message and says pretty much, I heard what happened and I'm paraphrasing here, but yeah. I heard what happened between you and Grace. Like, I want to let me come comfort you, and puts like a winky emoji.
She's a horrible person, a horrible roommate, a horrible friend.
Yeah, implying that she was willing to go to his place to hook up with him to help him get over Grace.
And here's the thing. Horrible right off the bat, right? Like, immediately, I don't like you. You're a crappy person and crappy friend. But where it gets worse, y'all, is that when she finally gets caught, she's not apologetic. She doesn't see what she did as wrong until she actually loses Grace. And that's when she starts groveling. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? She's a horrible person. And I will say, and again, spoiler, but I will say that I think the way that Elle Kennedy wrote Grace's like acceptance of all of this, I think that was done really, really well, and that she wasn't willing to just forgive and forget like a lot of characters in books are when someone betrays them. But she was not, and she's like, I'm keeping you at an arm's length because I can no longer trust you. And good, because Ramona deserves nothing in my book.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, Ramona and Grace have been like friends since they were children. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I will say, I don't want to fully throw Ramona under the bus and say she's horrible. I'm not fully there. Like, yes, she's done really bad things. Some things that are not, I don't even know how they're going to redeem it. But because there's more than one thing that she does that's awful to Grace.
Yeah.
But one of the things is, I think there is this self-reflection. There is this self-reflection that Ramona has at some part of the book, and she realizes that, you know, she has all of these insecurities, mm-hmm. and that it leads to her acting out and, you know, her being jealous and all of these things. And I think that gave me a little grace for her, so to speak. There was also a really scary incident that happened between her and some of their rival teams, hockey players. Like, she got
St.
trapped
Augustine,
in a room.
I think.
Or maybe, I don't know if they were hockey players, but she got basically roped into a dangerous situation with a bunch of men, and Logan actually is the one who goes and saves her from mm-hmm. that situation. So I think there are opportunities to expand upon these things to redeem her character in the same way that you said they did for Delilah in Every Year After, which is fine. To be honest, I feel like I think it's okay to sometimes have a character not be redeemable, because I think in life there are people who are just truly evil, like, mm-hmm. and are bad people. And I think we don't always have to fix them, because that's reality, right?
I do wonder too, like, is she going to be as bad as she was in the books? Because if you remember too, in the books, not only did she, you know, go after Logan when they were going through stuff, but she also didn't even believe Grace at first. So Grace is like, oh my God, like, I had this moment with Logan, and she's like, no, you didn't. Like, you're lying. And Logan has to prove, because it's like this whole thing that ends up blowing up, and Logan literally has to like prove to everyone that she is not lying, because her best friend spreads a rumor that she's lying. And so it's so incredibly toxic. And even after that, she's still friends with her. And so that's why I don't think that she should be redeemable. But if in the TV show she's not quite as bad, I think that there's a redemption arc for her. But if we get the Ramona that we get in the books, I think that she has to just be the villain in order for it to make sense.
But we also have to keep in mind, the reason why people have loved Off-Campus season 1 is because it wasn't a super toxic show. Mm-hmm. So I am going to be curious if they are going to include some of the extremely toxic moments that are in Logan's book, because I mean, no shade, that's like 50% of his book is pretty toxic situations.
Well, and that also we need to talk about too, like, his family dynamic in the book, because his family dynamic is so different in the TV show. So for anyone who has not read the books, in the books, his mom is not in the picture. It is his dad, and his dad is a raging alcoholic who is basically letting his like mechanic shop down on a regular basis, constantly not showing up, like having these episodes where he's just fall down drunk. And it's Logan's older brother who is there to save the day. And so part of the reason why Logan doesn't want to go pro is because he knows that he needs to go home and take care of the family business to give his brother a break, because his brother's been doing it for the past 4 years. And so there's that
Yeah.
whole dynamic that is now going to be completely different, because now he doesn't have an older brother. He has a younger sibling, which is Jules, who we have met, and they are a completely different person than his older brother was. We also see that it's his mom that is at home taking care of the business, and we don't really know what exactly is going on with his mom as of right now. Like, they've hinted at things, but it never
Well,
was
she's
outright.
in rehab.
Yeah, but like, we don't know if it's for drugs or if it's for alcohol. Like, we don't know the specifics yet, and we do know that they have their like mechanic shop that he still goes home to work at. But so his entire family dynamic has shifted from what we were seeing in the books. So I'm curious to see how it's going to play out and how much different his storyline's going to be, because they already removed so much of that toxicity that maybe the Ramona piece is going to be what they keep.
Yeah, I definitely think we are going to see so many changes for Logan and Grace's book in the way that we didn't see with Hannah and Garrett. Yes, there were obviously some changes, but there's going to be major changes, I think, for Logan and Grace's book. Just because, I mean, they've already have changed so much for the storyline just in season one, and we haven't even fully even gotten into most of the book. So I wanted to talk about some other theories and predictions around other characters that we could see in season 2. And I feel like no one's talking about Sean. Like, Sean is definitely going to be in season 2, and Sean is going to be a menace in season 2, because I have seen some people say they don't think Sean is going to be in season 2 since him and Allie already broke up. And I disagree with that. I think we are going to see him, because we have to keep in mind Sean knows that Allie is hooking up with someone, yes, but we haven't
Dean.
seen him realize that it was Dean. Now, here's my thing, right? When Dean left and she came out and thought that he was at the door because he forgot his jacket, it's interesting that they didn't see each other in the hallway. Because it was like almost like, what, less than a minute later? Like, and he walked out without a shirt on. He definitely had to connect the dots. And we're going to see him like confront Allie about that.
Yeah. So I do think that we're going to see that confrontation, because that was a very big plot point in the book. And so I don't think that they're going to get rid of that, because that's kind of what they needed. Yeah. Literally. But I do think that there are ways, right? Like, I work at a college, for those of you who do not know. Not all residence halls are built the same. And so if Dean went left and he came from the right, like, which I did that backwards, but it's fine. If they went two completely different ways, they could have completely missed each other and he would have had no idea. I think what's going to give it away is however they play this Hunter Davenport storyline up in the TV show, because Hunter is here to create drama, and Sean is going to get pulled into that drama because Sean loves drama. He's a little drama queen, even though he doesn't want her to have her dramatic role on Broadway, right? And so I'm curious to see how that's going to impact their storyline, because Hunter's going to cause issues. And so I could even foresee Hunter going to Sean and being like, hey, are you aware that like your ex is sleeping with Dean? And having that be the dramatic like drop. And I could absolutely see that mess playing out on screen.
That would be so messy if Hunter is the person that tells Sean. So in the book, Sean finds out that Dean and Allie are hooking up because I think they were like at a party, right? Or something. And he saw, or was it like one of his Dean's frat brothers told?
Because they're brothers, yeah.
Yeah, I think one of Dean's frat brothers or something told Sean that Dean and Allie were hooking up, which, damn, like, what happened to bros before hoes? But
yeah. I'm curious too. So I've been seeing a lot of stuff online about this. So Joanna's character.
Yes.
Hear me out. Ready? So I'm going to give the lore that I've been seeing online, and then we need to talk about it, because I'm curious what your thoughts are. So a lot of people are saying that Joanna is part of the problem with Dean and Allie's storyline, because she has been part of this world for how long, right? Because of Beau, because she knows all of the Briar folks. She has been there, done that, seen them all through it. How does she not know that Carter is Hunter? She should know. She should know that that was never Carter. And so that theory has been floating around the internet, and I am definitely curious what your thoughts are on that. Especially as someone who read the Briar U books, because I don't know like what that could even look like, but I think based on how they've had her in the TV show, yes, she should have absolutely known that that was Hunter Davenport.
Yeah, I think it's definitely messy. And I'm hoping that when they created that storyline that they thought it through, and that it wasn't just like they just created the situation of Allie meeting him just because it would absolutely make sense for Joanna to recognize Hunter. So here's my thing. If Joanna did recognize Hunter, wouldn't Hunter also recognize her?
Exactly. So are they being messy and trying to separate Dean? But like, why would Joanna do that when Joanna had no reason to dislike Allie? So like, there's so much that could happen with this, or it could be that she just really never crossed paths with him. But I hope that they address it. I really hope that they address it.
But my thing is, because even if they just didn't think that, I feel like I'm wondering if they didn't think that scene through.
Yeah, correct. And it made me start thinking, because only book
readers would be confused.
Right. But it really made me start thinking about it. And I was like, the more that I sat on it and the more that I thought about it, I was like, how are they going to pull themselves out of this? Because
what would be her motive, though?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know. Unless she, I don't even know. Unless it has something to do with maybe Summer. I don't know. Because she knows the Laurentises really, really well. And so unless they pull like something with Summer's storyline in because of her relationship with Hunter, that's a possibility.
I'm trying to think like Summer's storyline. Summer basically, so Summer's a little unhinged, y'all. Okay. Summer, Dean's sister, is a little unhinged, and her storyline in her book starts with her transferring from Brown University to Briar U because she started a fire in her sorority house.
Yeah, she's very unhinged, but it's fine. You don't love her anyway.
You don't find out till much later in the book of why she set that fire. And it's actually really sad. Because I think she has ADHD and she was struggling. Well, I don't want to get into it, but basically that's how her story starts. She sets the fire. Well, a fire happens at her sorority house. She gets kicked out of the school and she transfers to Briar U, and she basically there's a character that she actually meets in Dean and Allie's book, which is why I think she's going to be in season 2. There's a character that she meets that she just becomes enamored with, and then she basically wants to be with him, but he thinks she's too much drama, and they have a whole will they won't they thing. And meanwhile, she's entertaining Hunter on the side while all of this is going on, which is why Hunter felt betrayed when she chose to be with the other character, who, mind you, is also his friend and teammate, over him. And also, I'm wondering if they're going to put that storyline for something that happened in high school versus something that happened in college, and that's going to be why they have beef.
Maybe. I will say, too, that in the books, Hunter is not as awful as he is in the TV show. To be fair, like he's not quite as awful in Dean and Allie's book. Okay, Dean takes him under his wing and is really trying to like help him, and like not by choice. There's some other things that happen that kind of force his hand in this, but he takes Hunter under his wing and is like really a good mentor for him. And so
he's mentoring him. Part. Let's be clear. Dean is mentoring him to be a hoe.
Well, yes. But but it also does make him a better person at the same time in that book. Remember, I don't know Hunter's storyline outside of Dean and Allie's book. And so in that book, you see him progress through his like really horrible start all the way throughout, and he does get a little bit better. I also just want to say too, and this has nothing to do with what we were just talking about, but I'm actually really, really excited if they are going to stick to the same storyline in the books. We're going to get to see Dean mentoring all the little kids, and
the little hockey players.
I want that so bad, and I will be so upset if that does not happen, because that was one of the things that I loved most about their book, is that you got to see him with the children, like with, I don't remember their names, but with the like brother and sister.
I think it was
duo.
Dakota, the little girl that was like like attached to him.
Like she was such a defining moment for him, and like it was just so wholesome and so sweet, and I really hope that they keep that. I really, really hope that they keep that.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? If they do keep that storyline, you realize they're gonna have to keep the Miranda and the new coach storyline.
Yes.
Now, for those who haven't read the book, Miranda is someone that Dean dated in quotation marks in high school, that got kind of really clingy to him, even though they had made the decision that they weren't gonna be together once they went to college. They had a drunk hookup, and he ended up taking her virginity, and she got really attached, and it's a whole thing. But he basically breaks up with her after, just because she keeps saying building up their future in his mind. And he breaks up with her, and after he breaks up with her, she has a mental health crisis. And I'm not going to get too much into it because I don't want to trigger anyone, but he ends up going to her dad to tell him about the daughter's mental health crisis, and the dad punches Dean in the face and then makes Miranda cut him off completely. In Dean and Allie's book, that same coach becomes his coach of the hockey team at Briar U. And he punishes him by making him a coach at that youth hockey team.
Which I can see that storyline playing out really, really well because of how awful the team did once Graham left. So, like, with the team up in arms right now, I think it's the perfect opportunity to have Dean's season be next and still have that coaching storyline as a part of it. I am wondering if they're going to keep the Miranda storyline quite as intense as what it was in the book, because it was really intense. But I also think that it helped to just explain why Dean was so anti-relationship too, because he was holding on to the fear of, well, this happened once before, it could happen again. So I feel like it could work, but I feel like it's also very, very intense. And with how intense Hannah's storyline was, I'm not sure if we're going to get the same level of intensity from that if they do bring it in. It might be like a little bit more diluted.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Miranda storyline is very it's very intense, but it does explain why he's, Mr. Six Flags, everybody gets a ride. It explains why he doesn't want to be in relationships. And I think they're going to have to include it to some aspect to explain his whole Six Flags thing. Now, I also do think that they have made changes already, right? Because like in season 1, Dean said he's never had a girlfriend. But my thing is, I think they could still work with that in the book, and being that maybe Dean didn't view their relationship as a relationship in the way that Miranda did. So I don't think people are like, oh, they're not going to include Miranda because of that. And I'm just like, I don't think that's the case. I think it's just he probably didn't view it that way because they were in high school and they had talked about the fact that they weren't going to be together after high school. So I can imagine in his mind, that's not a relationship.
Yeah. And with Dean being as messed up as he is when it comes to relationships, it makes a ton of sense to do it that way. I also just think that, like, as we were talking about all of these characters, Dean is pretty much the only hockey player that doesn't have mommy and daddy issues. And so his issues have to come from somewhere.
Family.
Yes. And so his issues have to come from somewhere. And so they have to be able to build in that storyline or a storyline similar somewhere to showcase why he is the way that he is. Now, what we talked about earlier with Beau is going to help with that for sure. But I still think that there has to be that secondary layer, because for every other character, you're messed up because of this situation and also because of what your parents did to you. But for Dean, his parents were always great and did all of these things for him, and he comes from money, and he's never had to worry or think about anything a day in his life. And so I think there's obviously some more to it than that, but I do think that that is going to be something that we see, like whatever that back storyline is going to be.
I wanted to add on to that point, because it's so great that you brought that up, because in the book, exactly what you just said about Dean is, and how he grew up privileged, is actually why Allie's dad does not like him. Allie's dad thinks that if Dean were to ever go through something difficult, that he would hurt and abandon Allie, which is so sad because that's exactly what happens when Beau dies. And yeah, I don't know if L. Kennedy wrote that intentionally to kind of foreshadow
for sure
what was to come.
I will also say
I can't wait to see Dean and Allie's dad interact, especially the scene where Dean has to go help Allie's dad because she's not around, and I think he had just fallen or something, and that's finally how Dean and Allie's dad were able to come to a more positive place in their relationship. What's interesting is when Dean goes to help Allie's dad, I don't think Dean and Allie are even together in that moment.
No.
I think this was after they had broken up.
But
he loved her so much that he was like, of course I'll help your dad.
I will also say too that I think the like privileged lifestyle that he led, that's also why him and Sabrina have beef. And so as we see that start to play out too, that's also why I think that Sabrina is going to be in this season, because all of that starts in his storyline, because she hates him because of his privilege, because she is not a privileged person. And she is openly like very much against anyone who cheats the system. Now, I'm not saying that Dean does cheat the system. In the books, he's kind of forced into it and is begging people to stop doing that for him. But of course, Sabrina doesn't see it that way.
Yeah. So I just want to talk about this one final thing. And, I've seen a lot of speculation online and, people's theories and predictions around Grace. We know Grace works at the radio station that Jules mentions in one of the episodes in season 1. And a lot of people think Grace was Jules's like the person Jules bought to the party for Beau's birthday party.
Peter Pan girl, yeah.
The Peter Pan girl. I was curious what you thought about some of that speculation. Do you think they're going to cut Ramona out and just make Grace Jules's roommate?
So I think so in the books, there's Ramona and Grace are rooming together. And then once she leaves for Paris, she comes back and gets a random. And that's Delilah, right? Daisy, something
Daisy,
with the
I think. Daisy.
Yeah. So,
Daisy's Daisy works at the radio station too.
Yeah, so then it's Daisy who she ends up living with when she gets back from her Paris trip. And that's actually something that I had said too is Jules going to take the place of Daisy? Because Jules already has that connection and they were very clear that they had that connection. And so is that how Grace is then going to get connected to the radio station and do all of that? And that's going to just be another layer of this new storyline for Logan. I feel like out of all of the characters, Logan's storyline is going to be the one that is the most changed. And so I don't know. Sure. It could really go either way. But I actually said to my mom, because she's probably watching right now, but she also read these books because of me. We watched season 1 together. And so, yes, I will say, yes, my mother and I watched season 1 together.
I cannot get over that detail, by the way, because I do not think I could watch this with my mom. Like,
yeah. But anyway, so I did say to my mom, I said, I wonder if they're going to get rid of Daisy and they're going to have Jules be the replacement for her because it's just one less character that they have to factor in. And that's why Logan's story then changed a little bit to include Jules as Daisy's character.
I could totally see that. That
They
I
were
could totally
giving-
see that being the case.
They were giving Daisy vibes, to be fair.
Yeah. You know, also, I don't know if people noticed this Easter egg, but Grace already was mentioned in season 1.
Yep.
When they were doing the raffle, they totally name dropped her as someone who won something in the, was it a silent auction or whatever?
Yeah, it was
the
a
raffle
silent
was.
auction at Malone's.
I know. I'm like looking back at the season and I'm like, okay, like I'm looking at the Puck Bunnies because I'm like, who could be in season 2 that's in this? Like, just I'm like, are they sprinkling people in that we're gonna see? Are they sprinkling like some plot points that we're gonna see developed in season 2? But I am so happy to have had you on today to talk about all of the theories and predictions for Off Campus. Did you have any last theories or predictions before we close?
I don't know. We talked about so much. I'm just really excited. I'm so excited to get Dean and Allie season on my screen, and they better not delay it any more than they already had to for FIFA. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Yes, and Dean better not be driving. Like, he better not be driving
I can't handle that.
Beau is in the car. Like, I cannot emotionally handle that.
No,
like,
you will be.
The season's already going to be crazy.
Prime will need to pay for my therapy and my medication. Please and thank you if you do that to us, because I will be unconsolable.
We will send it to your P.O. box.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming to our TED Talk.
Well, thank you again, Victoria, for joining me on this episode. We are going to be launching a few different things, you guys. So we are going to be doing a monthly roundup of all of our books that we've read for the month. So if you're interested in that, it will be posted on both of our socials. And we also have some other fun episodes that we're going to be working on together for the next couple months. So super excited about that. And we are also going to a indie book con in Baltimore. I will be dropping that in the show notes as well. If anyone would like to attend and hang out with us, maybe bring a book, get some books signed. It's going to be a great time. But thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, everyone.